What's up, kind people of YouTube? My name is Ahmed, and welcome back to yet another video. Today, I wanted to talk to you about 5 shows that I absolutely loved watching in the last 1 year. That is from June 2021 to June 2022. I was actually planning to do it in January, but I wasn't able to do it in January, unfortunately, or post that. But here I am making this video regardless of what happened. So in the last 1 year, basically, there have been quite a few shows that have come out that actually caught my attention, and each of these shows is going to get a video of its own very soon. I could give you a concise version of 5 shows that you should watch in the next month or so, and I can talk to you about them in detail in those videos. Now, the five absolutely brilliant shows that I saw in the last 1 year it's in no particular order because these are shows that I remembered as I was writing them down. Firstly, I want to talk about the Lincoln Lawyer. Lincoln Lawyer is the most recent show. Yikes. So Lincoln Lawyer was the most recent show that I watched in the list of this that I made, and the reason why it stuck with me was the one because of the performances of everybody that was there in these shows, and the fact that the okay, I'm a big fan of Boston Legal. If you haven't seen that video on Boston Legal, it's going to be there in somewhere here and in the description down below, so you can go see my review on Boston Legal as well. But I'm a big fan of legal dramas as well, and at this point I don't have to say big because I'm a fan of all things considered. So, Lincoln Lawyer is one of those legal dramas that I watched recently, and the narrative of the show was so beautifully done that you start to question the reality in which it is set, and how well the performances of each of the characters is done, and the fact that the lawyer himself is so brilliant in dealing with these situations. He's able to get his clients off on technicalities that I've seen only in a couple of other shows that I watched, Boston Legal being one of them. Alan Shaw, I think Lincoln Lawyer's main character is compared to Alan Shaw quite a bit, and in my opinion that is one of the things that I absolutely loved about the show, and that is something that worked in favor of the show. Now, if you've got the time, if you've got a free weekend and you don't know what to watch, I would highly recommend the Lincoln Lawyer, and it was brilliant to watch. Just watch it for the lead character and nobody else. Now, the second show that I absolutely loved watching in the last 1 year is another Netflix show that I watched. It's called Maid. As you watch this video currently, I'm working on the review of the show. It's gonna come out really soon. So the Maid is one of those shows that made me really emotional, really teary-eyed. It has a very simple story. It's about Alex getting out of a really bad marriage and making a life for herself, and has to take up a job as a maid to make ends meet, and so that she can move into a house, she can afford to live in a house. Now, that is a very interesting story in itself, and the fact that the struggles that Alex faces throughout is something that is dealt with. I will talk about this more in detail and why the show worked for me in the video that I put up for Alex for Maid. But I do highly recommend that it's called Maid. It's on Netflix. Just go watch it, because then there will be absolutely no spoilers when you come back and watch my review of the show. Now, the third show that I absolutely adored watching in the last 1 year was Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It is by far one of the funniest shows that I've seen. It's a comedy drama. If you don't know what Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is already, I'm sure you're living under a rock. But if you're not living under a rock and don't have Amazon Prime, why don't you have Amazon Prime at this point? Anyway, moving on. The recent season, I think season 4 of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, was one of the best seasons that has come out. Rachel Brosnahan as Maisel, absolutely brilliant. Of course, Lenny Bruce in the show, brilliant. The whole cast of it comes together really well. And if you haven't seen any of 4 of the seasons in the last 1 year, please, I promise you, go watch the show and you will not regret watching this show. I will be putting up a full video on this very soon, but please go watch the show. You will not regret watching Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Trust me. Now, if you're a big horror fan, the next show is going to divide opinions on this. I absolutely loved Midnight Mass. The reason why I loved Midnight Mass was because of Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan is one of those few horror writers that genuinely puts the creeps in your dreams, because it's not jump scares, it's not music, it's not sound effects and VFX that actually scare you. It's the reality that is portrayed in the show that is actually so scary. And that is why Midnight Mass worked for me, because more than the creatures and the jump scares, although there are not a lot of jump scares that are used in Midnight Mass, the fact that Midnight Mass actually had, like, I was scared of the people more in Midnight Mass than of the creature itself. Now, if you are a big horror fan, I would highly recommend watching this show. Just a heads up, it's a slow TV show. It's not something that anybody and everybody will enjoy, but it is definitely a show that you should watch, regardless of at what time you're watching this. And the final show that I would highly recommend is an Indian show that came out, I think, in January or early February. It's called Ye Kali Kali Aankhein. I would be highly disappointed if the second season does not say Turutu. I would be highly disappointed if it isn't that. Moving on from my stupid joke that I just cracked, Ye Kali Kali Aankhein is about a small town. It's a small town boy who falls in love with a small town girl, and the problem he faces because a politician's daughter falls in love with him. If I had to tell you what Ye Kali Kali Aankhein is, I think the best way to describe this is Ye Kali Kali Aankhein is everything that Haseen Dilruba wanted to be but failed to be at the end. Ye Kali Kali Aankhein, I think, personally does mystery thriller better than Haseen Dilruba. Haseen Dilruba was a great film, no doubt, but I personally think that Ye Kali Kali Aankhein would have been much better, as it is not would have been, is much better than Haseen Dilruba. If you want to watch a mystery thriller, it's one of those shows that I would highly recommend you watch. So that is my list of 5 shows that you can watch if you have the time for it and if you haven't watched them already. Stay tuned for the reviews of each of them. Also, there are reviews coming out very soon in the next week or so from the time you see this video. Peace. See you in the next video, and a TV show review coming out really soon.